Hello, and welcome to the Kansas City Symphony's new podcast, Beethoven Walks into a Bar. So imagine Beethoven walks into a bar, 21st century, let's say, right here in Kansas City. And if he approached our table after a concert or a rehearsal, a group of musicians hanging out, what might the conversation be?
Well, thanks for joining me on this 6th episode of Artists in Residence. This is the first time we're going to talk to multiple people, so we'll see how this goes. All from the symphony. We have Michael Gordon, the principal flutist of the symphony, Jason Sieber, the associate conductor, and Stephanie Brimhall, the education manager. All three of you are working together to create a podcast, but this podcast first started March 9th, so it came out a little before the stay-at-home order. Were you planning on the stay-at-home order before doing this podcast, or was this something that was in the works prior?
Well, we were fortunate enough to be able to do the very first podcast all together in the same room, and had a great time doing that. I don't think we were surprised by the stay-at-home order, but I also, it was, there were some challenges that we had to overcome, and are now, I would say, pretty adept at doing it at home.
Yeah, we've gotten comfortable pretty quickly. I think as a concept, this was something that was in the back of minds for a little while, but our inability to play concerts sort of pushed things forward quickly. So we had about, I don't know what, maybe 6 days from when we first decided or it was decided for us, I suppose, that we would try to do this, and then we put out the first episode. We recorded together, and since then we've been recording from our separate homes and had to adapt, but it's working out all right, I think.
And so who came up with the title? So the title of the podcast is Beethoven Walks into a Bar. And I'll just let you, how did you come up with the title Beethoven Walks into a Bar? And then the concept of the podcast, because it really is interesting. And I've learned so much out of the first 4 podcasts that I've listened to. Who came up with that idea? And tell me about the podcast.
One morning, our new executive director, Danny Beckley, came in, and he was excited, and he was kind of talking with everyone around, saying that he really wanted to do this new podcast, and he'd come up with a name, and it was going to be this very lighthearted and fun, casual conversation about classical music. And I honestly don't remember what his title was, because his assistant was sitting there as part of this conversation, and all of a sudden he chimes in and said, no, I think it should be Beethoven Walks into a Bar. And then everybody around was like, absolutely, that's what it should be. And that's where it was born from. It really is just meant to be a casual, fun conversation about music, like you might have in a bar.
I think there's a perspective or a perception of what these arts organizations are like from the outside that doesn't seem accessible to them. But this podcast makes me feel like the symphony is very accessible to everyone.
I think so, for sure. I mean, one of the big things we talked about right from the beginning was how can we give our audience members, whether they are diehards that come every week or people that maybe come occasionally, or maybe people that have thought about coming and just haven't come yet, how can we give all those people kind of a behind the scenes look at what happens at the symphony, no matter what their level of comfort is with us already. But I think we're especially targeting people that maybe are familiar with us, but just don't know a lot about us and want to know more. I mean, there's so many cool things that we do at the symphony. There's music for everyone with all the diversity of concerts that we offer. And what we're trying to do through the podcast is kind of give people a behind the scenes, inside baseball kind of look into the symphony world.
The second episode, you talk about one-hit wonders. Now, I never thought of one-hit wonders in classical music. Does that work the same? I mean, is it, so some of these one-hit wonders that you talk about, is it their other stuff is just not nearly as good and they just got lucky once? Or I don't know, how does that work in the classical music world? Because I thought that was a great parallel.
Yeah, I think there are definitely not as many one-hit wonders in the classical world. Usually, if you're known as a composer, you have at least a few hits. And then, of course, you have people like Beethoven, Mozart, Brahms that have many. well-known pieces. But there are several composers that are really only known for one orchestral piece at least. They might have an opera that gets performed sometimes or a concerto. But as far as main orchestral repertoire, you definitely have a few people that are only known for one hit. And actually on that episode, we talked about the Albinoni Adagio, which is played at weddings all the time. It's a piece from the Baroque period, or at least we thought. And then we've found out in the last 50 years or so that he didn't even write it. He might have written like the opening melody, and that's it. So his one hit isn't even a hit. It's like Milli Vanilli, you know?
Yeah. Michael, what have you been doing to keep yourself busy during the stay-at-home order? I know when it comes to practicing, you said you've been driving your wife up the wall maybe a little bit, but what have you been doing to stay busy during this stay-at-home order that we have going on?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I'm used to not having a choice about when I play the flute and how much I play, because I have to, be at work at a certain time for rehearsal for concerts, and that's great. But in the absence of that, I've actually felt really motivated to play a lot and to try to share music as much as possible. I've been getting all into making videos that I've been putting up on Facebook and sharing with people that way. Thanking people who have supported us, because I can't physically be in the same place as anyone else and play music for them. So as an offshoot of that, I'm starting to learn how to do some video editing. I never edited a video in my whole life before 3 weeks ago, and now I'm learning to use Final Cut, and I just got this new recorder so I can make stuff sound a little bit better than what comes out of my iPhone. And so yeah, I've been doing a lot of that, and I've been making this podcast with these two wonderful people, and in many ways I actually feel quite a bit busier, and then I'm doing more different things than what I would normally be doing.
What I think everyone's saying is maybe this will push the artwork forward, the art forward, and how we communicate with the public maybe a little differently. Stephanie, you've been working on Symphony at Home, or education for the Symphony at Home. What's that program that people might want to check out online there at the Symphony?
Sure. So we have spent quite a bit of time putting a lot of our materials online. I am a mother of 2 elementary age kids, and so we've been getting a lot of stuff from the schools, but I really feel like families are looking for opportunities to engage their children with a variety of different activities online, and the Symphony really wanted to be able to help with that. So we've taken, many of our musicians have been super generous, like Mike, but many have been generous with their time in creating videos of them playing, but also we started videos that introduce the instruments to kids and adults and whoever wants to learn more about those instruments. So we've got a handful of them up on the website right now where you can see, you can learn about the harp. I actually learned quite a bit from Catherine Ciochi about the harp in these introduction videos. We've got harp and violin and I think flute and oboe, and more coming every day. So that's really neat. And I also spent quite a bit of time adapting learning guides that we had created for programs that we've done over the years, and have adapted them so that parents at home with their kids can look at those online and go through different programs that the Symphony has performed for our elementary school concerts about science, about reading, language arts, history, all sorts of different things. So we've been able to bring those to the community as well.
That's great. And again, the best place for people that are watching this to go and check it out is right there on the website of the KC Symphony, correct?
Right, kcsymphony.org.
So encourage everyone to go and check that out. It's really good. It's very pleasing to the eye to look at, very professionally done, and lots of content, which is awesome. It was really great. Jason, what have you been doing during this time? What does behind the scenes at the Symphony look like for you during this the stay-at-home order?
Well, it's interesting because when we are active giving rehearsals and concerts, we're in Hellsberg Hall for probably 20 to 25 hours a week. And some people, from the outside look at that and go, wow, you get paid full time to be in your job for only 20 hours a week or so. But actually, the musicians are home practicing every day, 3 to 4 or 5 hours a day. And I'm at home studying scores. I spend a lot of time in my pajamas in my basement learning music. And I have still been doing some of that because, of course, we have programs that we're hoping to get back to soon, and I've been studying those. But I've also got my violin back out. A lot of conductors don't have time because they're so immersed in scores to play their instruments as much as they'd like to. So I've really reconnected with my violin, and that's been very nice. I, along with Mike, have been giving a few performances that I've uploaded to get us through these difficult times. And we've also started a porch concert series. Some of the KCES musicians and myself here in Brookside, Waldo area, we did our first one last Wednesday, and we're hoping to do them again once the weather cooperates and it's a little warmer outside. Just going out to our porch, playing a real informal performance for 15, 30 minutes as neighbors walk by, all socially distancing and being responsible, but just trying to bring some joy into people's hearts during this difficult time for all of us.
Jason, Stephanie, Michael, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Artists in Residence. We will, of course, get online and follow the Kansas City Symphony on all the social platforms. And of course, like I said, go to the website and follow some of the education pieces that you have out that are just beautiful to look at. And of course, the podcast, the podcast is available there at Symphony's website. It's also available on Spotify, Apple Music, and iTunes. It's a big deal. It's amazing, and it's so enlightening. And I've really enjoyed each episode's right about 30 minutes, give or take. And so it's a good listen while you're driving to work or driving home. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.